No one expected much from that scrappy little pup with wide eyes and clumsy paws, left behind in forgotten animal shelter. Cena was just another dog among dozens, waiting for a chance that never seemed to come. But sometimes destiny hides in plain sight. While others walked past his cage without a second glance, one man in uniform stopped. He saw something different, a spark, a restless spirit, a fire that couldn't be trained into just any dog. And just like that, almost by accident, or maybe by something greater, Cena left behind a life of loneliness and stepped into a new beginning. No one knew it yet, but that tiny pup was about to make history. Training was brutal. Cena had to prove himself every single day. It wasn't just about strength or speed. It was about heart, about pushing forward when every instinct screamed to quit. Through endless drills and exhausting obstacle courses, he honed his natural instincts into razor-sharp skills. Each session was a silent battle against fear and doubt, and each small victory was a massive leap towards something bigger. To the trainers watching him, Cena wasn't just another military dog. He was a force of nature, a warrior in the making. It's funny how life works. Sometimes, what seems fragile at first holds the greatest strength. With that unbreakable spirit, Cena passed his first real test and boarded a military transport heading straight into a combat zone. The roaring engines, the scent of diesel, the shouts of soldiers, everything was raw, overwhelming. But Cena didn't flinch. He moved with a quiet determination, almost as if he had been born for this. His story was just beginning, intertwining with the lives of men and women who would soon entrust him with everything, their lives, their hopes, their futures. And little did Cena know, these first few steps were only the beginning of a journey that would leave a mark on the world far beyond the battlefield. But what turns a rescued, sheltered dog into a symbol of loyalty and courage? That's exactly what you're about to find out. True heroes aren't born ready. They're forged with relentless discipline. Cena learned that quickly when he was thrown into the grueling world of Marine Corps training. While other dogs chased tennis balls, Cena was chasing his own limits. He scaled walls taller than himself, sniffed out explosives buried deep beneath the earth, and followed commands amid the chaos of simulated gunfire. There was no room for hesitation. Every mistake could mean life or death in the real world. And it was there in the mud, the dust, and the scorching sun that Cena quietly transformed into the protector so many would one day rely on. It's easy to admire a hero after medals are pinned. Few witnessed the lonely, grueling days that make one. The trainers recognized that Cena was different, but they didn't go easy on him. If anything, they pushed harder. Daily obedience drills, mental resilience exercises, relentless focus training under extreme pressure. It was a battlefield before the battlefield. And Cena, with that unshakable look in his eyes, met every challenge head-on. There's a story that still gets passed around. During a live simulation, an explosion rocked the field. Most dogs flinched. Cena moved forward, searching for threats. That moment changed everything. The trainers realized they weren't just looking at a good dog. They were looking at something rare. Sometimes, the greatest potential reveals itself when fear is staring you right in the face. Over the months, Cena didn't just learn military techniques. He absorbed values that aren't taught, only lived. Loyalty without limits, focus under fire, bravery without reward. He became what the soldiers proudly called a brother in arms. He wasn't a mascot. He wasn't just another tool. He was family. And that bond was what prepared Cena for the real test ahead. Because training for war is one thing. Facing it, smelling the fear, feeling the chaos, and still choosing to protect. That's something only the truest warriors can do. And it's exactly on that razor's edge between fear and courage where Cena's real story would start to unfold. No amount of training, no matter how brutal, can fully prepare you for the chaos of real combat. Cena found it out the moment his paws touched the cracked, dry earth of his first war zone. The deafening noise, the heavy scent of gunpowder, the tension etched into every soldier's face. It was raw, overwhelming, and absolutely real. On his very first mission, Cena was tasked with sweeping the entrance of a seemingly quiet village. It was there, nose to the ground and heart pounding. And he proved he wasn't just a trained dog. He was a natural-born guardian. The memory of that moment stayed with everyone who witnessed it. Cena moved cautiously, sniffing every inch of ground as the platoon held its breath. Suddenly, he froze, sat down, and looked up at his handler, their prearranged signal for danger. Hidden under a thin layer of sand was a deadly explosive device, waiting to tear through the unsuspecting soldiers. Thanks to Cena, lives were saved that day. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. It wasn't just about a mission going right. It was about a bond being formed. Cena, the once abandoned shelter dog, had become the angel who watched over battle-hardened warriors. But not every mission ended so cleanly. There were nights when Cena had to act entirely on instinct, moving through fields of chaos with bullets cutting the air. Once, during a night patrol, Cena sensed an ambush moments before it sprung, saving his team from certain death. Under a sky lit up by gunfire and explosions, those soldiers realized something important. Cena wasn't just part of the team. He was the team. Not a mascot, not an accessory. A true warrior. And it was in those first brutal missions, amidst the sweat, fear, and unspoken prayers, that Cena began writing the story that would touch hearts far beyond any battlefield. But the real tests, the ones that would push him to his very limits, were still waiting on the horizon. Every mission left marks that no one could see. On the outside, Cena still looked strong and steady, his eyes just as sharp as ever. But inside, he was carrying wounds that no battlefield medic could heal. The constant tension, the sound of explosions, the smell of burning earth, they all piled up, mission after mission, until even a heart as brave as Cena started to feel the cracks. The soldiers knew what combat stress looked like in each other, but seeing it in their four-legged brother-in-arms was a different kind of heartbreak. Cena, once fearless and eager, would sometimes tremble ever so slightly in moments of stillness. It was a harsh reminder, not all injuries bleed. The signs became clearer over time. Cena, who used to respond to commands with lightning-fast precision, sometimes hesitated for a breath. Tiny shifts in his posture, subtle changes in his gaze. Little things only those who loved him could notice. Some of the soldiers, hardened by their own battles with invisible wounds, saw what was happening and stepped in the only way they knew how. They gave Cena what they wished someone had given them: time, patience, and unconditional love. Between missions, they created safe spaces, tossing a ball, offering a gentle rub behind the ears, whispering soft words. It might seem small, but in a world where silence was often filled with gunfire, those quiet acts were louder than any explosion. But war doesn't wait for anyone to heal. Mission after mission, Cena kept showing up, even when his body craved rest and his mind longed for peace. Maybe it was loyalty that drove him. Maybe it was a silent bond forged in the heat of battle. Whatever it was, he kept fighting, not just for survival, but for the men and women who had become his family. Behind every successful mission was a private battle raging inside him, a battle few could see, but one that made his courage all the more extraordinary. And just when it seemed Cena had given all he could, life threw him into a mission that would test him more than ever before. It was supposed to be just another routine patrol, the kind Cena had been through 100 times before. The terrain looked clear, the air was calm, and the squad moved forward in tight formation. But war has a cruel way of turning normal into nightmare in an instant. Halfway through the route, Cena stopped dead in his tracks, nose pressed to ground, body tense like a drawn bowstring. Before anyone could react, an explosion ripped through the earth, sending dirt, debris, and bodies flying. Cena, closest to blast, took the brunt of it. In a flash, the world collapsed into a haze of smoke, screams, and raw survival. The next moments felt like slow motion. Cena, bloody and battered, tried to stand, but his body wouldn't cooperate. Still, his eyes searched the chaos, looking for his teammates, determined to protect even when he could barely move. 2 soldiers, without thinking twice, sprinted to the gunfire to reach him, shielding him with their own bodies. They wrapped Cena in makeshift blankets and pulled him back to safety as bullets tore through the air. Even as he drifted in and out of consciousness, Cena's spirit never wavered. That unbreakable fire inside him, the same fire that once caught Marine's eye in a lonely shelter, still burned, refusing to die. The medevac was a desperate rush against time. Every heartbeat was a gamble, every second prayer. Cena was rushed back to the base where military veterinarians were standing by, fighting to save him. The injuries were serious: shrapnel wounds, broken ribs, but not fatal, thanks to the quick thinking and sheer will of the team. After hours of surgery and intense care, Cena finally rested, his breathing steady but fragile. He hadn't just survived a battlefield explosion. He had survived the weight of war itself. But survival was just the first step. The road to recovery would be long and grueling. And along that road, Cena would discover a new kind of strength, one built not on muscle, but on love. Cena's recovery wasn't just a matter of resting and waiting. It was a battle all its own, a fight fought quietly, inch by inch, breath by breath. Every small movement, every tiny improvement felt like a triumph. At first, he could barely lift his head, his chest rising and falling in shallow, painful breaths. But Cena had something stronger than any injury, an unstoppable will to live. Soldiers rotated shifts just to sit by his side, whispering encouragements, scratching behind his ears, telling him stories of missions they had survived together. In those moments, they understood something profound. You don't win wars with firepower alone. You win with love, loyalty, and the invisible threads that bind souls together. Physical therapy was brutal. For Cena and for those who watched, every limp, every shaky step was a reminder of how fragile heroes could be. But Cena never backed down. One day, during a rehab session, a soldier called his name. And despite the pain, despite the odds, Cena pulled himself up and hobbled over. The room erupted in cheers, tears running down faces hardened by war. In that simple, staggering act of determination, Cena proved something unshakable. True strength isn't about how fast you run or how high you jump. It's about standing back up when the world has knocked you to the ground. Slowly, day by day, Cena found his way back. He wasn't exactly the same. He was slower, a little more careful. But his spirit had only grown stronger. When he returned to his unit, he wasn't just welcomed back, he was celebrated. Cena walked among them not just as a survivor, but as a symbol, a reminder that battles are fought both outside and within. That scars, seen and unseen, are the badges of those who refuse to give up. And though Cena had already given so much his story, and his greatest lessons were far from over, what came next would show the world a different kind of heroism, one that shines even brighter away from the battlefield. Cena's reunion with his old comrades was one of those moments that stay etched in memory forever, like a photograph time can't fade. After his recovery, the command organized a small gathering at the base. Nothing fancy, no grand speeches, just raw, honest emotion. As Cena walked on the parade ground, slower but proud, the soldiers stopped what they were doing. Some stood at attention, others knelt down, arms open, fighting back tears they didn't care if anyone saw. Cena, in his quiet way, reminded them all that true strength wasn't about medals or ranks. It was about loyalty, pure, unconditional, and unbreakable. Every step Cena took was met with pats, gentle hugs, and whispered words of gratitude. It seemed like every soldier needed their own moment to thank him for the times he had stood between them and death. Maybe it was the silence that made it so powerful. No demands, no expectations, just endless love and duty. Around the gathering, stories started to flow. Tales of missions gone sideways, of moments when Cena's calm gaze turned fear into focus. As they laughed and cried, it became clear. Cena hadn't just protected their lives. He had carried their hope through the darkest nights. What they didn't know was that this reunion wasn't the end of Cena's mission. It was the beginning of a new one, a mission beyond the battlefield. But no less important, his body might have slowed, but his spirit was still a force that pulled people together. From that day on, Cena would serve a different purpose: to inspire, to teach, and to remind every soul he touched that true courage doesn't end when the battle is over. It echoes through every life it saves. And soon, Cena's new journey would show just how powerful a silent hero could be. When retirement day finally came, Cena no longer wore a tactical vest or stood ready for patrols. But deep down, he was still the same warrior, just with a new mission ahead of him. One of the Marines who had served alongside him, now out of the military, opened his home and his heart to the old friend who had once saved so many lives. Cena traded battlefields for soft green lawns, tense nights for long naps under the sun. His body carried the weight of every mission he'd survived, but his spirit remained fierce, alert, and full of quiet dignity. The war was over, but the courage that defined him would never fade. In his new home, Cena discovered a kind of peace no combat zone could ever offer. He learned the beauty of slow mornings, the pure joy of chasing a ball just because he could, and the comfort of falling asleep on the couch with someone he loved close by. Still, his presence continued to teach powerful lessons. Neighbors, kids, even strangers could feel it. The way Cena moved, the way he looked at you, said something deeper than words ever could. True strength is quiet. Real loyalty doesn't shout. And greatness often looks like an old dog lying in the sun, carrying the invisible medals of a life lived with honor. But even in this new chapter, Cena wasn't done. Time began to leave its marks more clearly. Slower steps, longer naps, a little more gray in his muzzle. Yet every tired movement was a reminder. Life isn't just about rushing to the next goal. It's about savoring the journey, even when the pace changes. And in slowing down, Cena was still teaching, showing everyone who crosses path that a warrior's mission never truly ends. It just transforms. And soon, the world would see that the greatest legacies are built not just in a moment of action, but in the quiet, enduring power of love and loyalty. The day came quietly, as if even time itself wanted to slow down in respect. Cena, now graying and weary but still filled with that unmistakable spark, lay peacefully in his favorite spot when he took his last breath, surrounded by the people who loved him most. There was no fear, no pain, just a calm passing, like a warrior finally laying down his shield. When word spread to the ranks, it didn't take long for his old comrades to organize a farewell worthy of a true hero. This wasn't going to be just any goodbye. Cena deserved full military honors, and that's exactly what he received. In a ceremony that left even the toughest heart shattered, the service was held outdoors, under a clear blue sky that seemed somehow more vivid that day. American flags waved gently in the breeze as soldiers, lined up in perfect formation, saluted one last time. At the center of it all was a small casket, draped with the flag Cena had served under, surrounded by the medals he had earned without ever asking for recognition. Speeches were given, stories of bravery, loyalty, and a kind of love that most people only dream of experiencing. But it was the silences, the choked-back sobs, and the heavy, reverent breaths that spoke loudest of all. Sometimes the deepest gratitude is felt, not spoken. At the end, as the final shots of the 21-gun salute echoed into the horizon, soldiers stepped forward one by one to pay their respects, touching the casket gently, whispering their thanks. Cena might have left the battlefield, but he had secured his place forever in the hearts of those who knew him. Heroes aren't made by the medals they collect. They're made by the lives they touch, the hope they inspire, and the love they leave behind. And though Cena's physical journey had ended, the true measure of his life was only beginning to unfold. A legacy that would soon reach far beyond the fields where he once ran so fearlessly. Cena's story didn't end with that final salute. If anything, it only grew stronger, spreading like a quiet flame that lit up the hearts of everyone who heard it. At military schools, in veteran gatherings, and around kitchen tables where war stories are passed down, Cena's name became a symbol. He wasn't just remembered for what he did on the battlefield. He became living proof that true bravery is about more than combat. It's about showing up, standing tall, and giving your heart fully, even when no one is watching. Every time someone told a story, Cena's legacy grew, inspiring new generations to believe that real heroes often wear no medals and ask for no applause. A few years later, a foundation was created in Cena's name, dedicated to rescuing retired military working dogs and finding them loving homes. The base where Cena served built a small museum in his honor, preserving his vest, his medals, and the photos of missions he helped save. Children would visit, standing wide-eyed in front of his memorial, asking questions about the dog who had done so much. And in their curious eyes and eager hearts, Cena lived on, a silent teacher showing them that strength is kind, loyalty is fierce, and the greatest heroes often have fur and four paws. Today, when we speak of Cena, We aren't just telling a story about a military dog. We're honoring a spirit that refused to give up, a soul that chose love over fear every single time. His legacy reminds us that greatness isn't measured by the battles we win, but by the lives we lift up along the way. Sina showed the world that being a warrior isn't about how loud you roar. It's about how quietly you stand for something bigger than yourself. And as long as there's someone telling his story, Sina will keep marching forward, unseen but unforgettable, in the hearts of everyone who still believes in true heroes.